are no bad guys, just disturbed guys.
National college baseball writer for CSTV, Eric Sorenson.
Speaking of, this is like Christmas Day for me, by the way.
LSU wins it!
All right, just watch out if they show up with those Houston bats at your doorstep.
Cinderella wins the national championship!
He's Eric Sorenson. He knows everything.
The biggest fan of the sport you'll ever find.
Hey there, boys and girls. How you doing? Eric Sorenson here from the cave. Welcome to another baldcast. I'm glad to have you. Hope you had a good college baseball weekend and looking forward to the college baseball week ahead. By the way, this week's episode is sponsored once again, this time by the number 7. Anyway, one of the things I wanted to start off with is, I'm a college football, basketball, and baseball writer. Baseball's the thing I do most and probably do best. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. But one of the things I really love about college baseball writing as opposed to college football, and one of the things that's totally different, is the fact that coaches in college baseball love the media attention that they get. They kind of embrace the media a lot more than college football. If you can imagine, there's so many college football writers and so many outlets, obviously. You kind of get the idea that Urban Meyer gets sick of the media after about 3 days in Florida down there. It's just the opposite in baseball. Coaches a lot of times just love having their team talked about or love having the press contact them and doing something on them, a feature. And one of the other unique things I think about college baseball that I really love, the fact that it's small and it'll never get big like college football or basketball, which I'm okay with. One of the things I really love about it is that from time to time I'll actually get emails from coaches, assistant coaches and head coaches. Not a lot. I mean, I'm not going to name drop 100 of them, but every once in a while I'll get an email from a coach saying, hey, by the way, I meant to say a while ago, thanks for all you do for college baseball. It's really great, yada, yada. And I think that's cool, and I'm sure a lot of the other contemporaries of mine get emails like that as well. And that's really a cool thing. And another thing is I got a good email from a coach earlier this week, and I was emailing him back talking about his tough schedule. I was like, yeah, saw you guys had a real arduous schedule coming up. And he wrote back, I'm a coach. I don't really know what arduous means, but if that means too goddamn tough of a baseball schedule, what was I thinking when I put it together? Yes, I agree with you. It comes with the territory. So let's see. We had the Houston College Classic, where Houston, University of Houston, shocked the world. I hate that phrase too. I do too. Anyway, they shocked the world. They swept them, swept the field, going 3-0, beating Texas along the way. We also had the Coca-Cola Classic out there in Phoenix, which I was able to go to for one day. Arizona State beat a good Oregon State and a good Florida International team, which was impressive. And then we also had Florida State beating the piss out of Georgia. Probably was the other big story from the weekend. Don't get too geeked about Florida State beating the hell out of Georgia like they did. Yeah, it was a good weekend for them, obviously. I mean, Georgia's not going to be a piss-poor team or anything. But we also have to remember Florida State always gets off to a good start. They always do, and then they go on the road, whether it be in conference or not. Usually it is in conference. And the road exposes them, and of course at the end of the year we see they've had some troubles in the postseason, even getting out of the Super Regionals. They've lost 6 of the last 7 they've been in. So let's take it with a grain of salt with what Florida State did. Houston also, they beat Texas with Michael Goodnight. That's a great win, obviously, and a good name. Goodnight. They didn't have to play Rice. They didn't have to play Texas A&M in Houston. So that's kind of another thing where, all right, yeah, they did great. Let's just kind of see what happens. So 5 things I think we should watch for this coming week. First of all, those 3 teams. Florida State will host UVA. The ACC kicks off this weekend, which will be great. It'll be fun. Still too big of a conference to start this early, whatever. But that'll be a great series. Also, look, Arizona State has got Auburn coming in. Auburn's not going to show any mercy for not having Josh Spence. So their offense is going to be great, and it'll be a huge test for Arizona State's young staff. I mean, they got a lot of JC guys going at it now in the stead of Spence. Say that 3 times fast. And also Houston, they're going to have to go up the coast to Cal Poly, one of the toughest destinations to get to in college baseball, but one of the more beautiful places as well, too. Big test for them. They'll also play up at Cal and San Francisco in the midweek and go to Arizona State the following week. Talk about arduous. That's a death march there. So we'll see how they turn out after that. If they come away even playing 500 ball from that, I think we should still be pretty impressed with Houston. Let's find out about that. Secondly, the second biggest story I think coming up this weekend is Louisville going to Ole Miss. Dan McDonald going back to his old stomping grounds in Oxford. He was an assistant there for Mike Bianco for a number of years, and Louisville will go in with an 11-0 record, and they're a confident team. They don't have Chris Dominguez around this time. They still have Wunderlich and I. James in the batting order, and those are 2 powerful, brutally tough batters. And they've got some good pitching. I think they go in there confident. And Ole Miss is, they got blown out by Tulane. They lost to ULM in the first game. They're a little shaky. Also, I think that the third biggest story is LSU will finally play somebody with a pulse. They're going to host Kansas. The only bummer about that weekend is no Anthony Renato of LSU going against Tony Thompson of Kansas. That was one of the things I was really looking forward to from this series this weekend. Won't happen. Oh well. No, the next one, one that's kind of off the radar. Washington State going to Texas A&M. Again, talk about a tough place to play. But Washington State they're 9-1. A&M is 9-2 right now. Both are going to be pretty good teams. Washington State is, I don't know if they're going to be really scared going into A&M with that student section, because last year Coach Donnie Marbut led the Cougs to places like Arkansas and Rice and Long Beach State. They played on the road at a lot of tough places, and the regionals in Norman. So I think they're going to be ready for this test at A&M. Big crowds expected. We'll see how they turn out. It'll be interesting. The last thing, number 5. Get my hand in the frame there. Number 5 is Oklahoma and UCLA down at the Whataburger Classic down in Corpus Christi. That'll be a Sunday game. Those 2 teams are 2 of the teams that are in my personal top 10, 2 of the better teams I've seen this year, and it'll be great to see how that turns out. Also, Mississippi State is down there. So those 3 teams will have a hoedown. It'll be a lot of fun down there on the coast. Lastly, I got emails, a lot of emails, but one of the interesting ones was somebody was asking, should we call the SEC a great conference now? Well, let's see. Last week, one of the biggest stories going into the weekend was, can the SEC go on the road and win? Well, the SEC teams went 11-9 away from home last weekend, which is about average, and that got me thinking, well, if that's about average, are we saying that the SEC is average? Maybe so, but what I would like to say is teams like Florida, Vanderbilt, who I saw and was really impressive, Florida, Vanderbilt in the East, and Arkansas and LSU in the West. I think those 4 teams have a real shot at being legitimate great teams. The rest of the SEC, maybe a little bit more middle of the road for now. We'll see what happens. But nonetheless, that's it for this week. Again, go out and see a baseball game if you get a chance. If you don't, I'm going to have it tarred and feathered. So by all means, pay your admission, support college baseball near you. This week's music bed was provided by the inimitable Little Richard. Probably, these are the songs that he sang that are in the background. Probably the greatest rock and roll singer, in my opinion, right up there with Sam Cooke, Otis Redding, Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin, of course, and Susan Boyle. So enjoy. Thanks for reading. Keep writing in, giving me suggestions. I'll see you later.